A Little Girl's Dream Come True by Nicole Hieronymus. Scent is the strongest sense tied to memory. Regardless of the images in my head, my mother will always be vanilla, and my father, brute cologne and mint mouthwash. The best day of my life will always be sweet, creamy cinnamon. That day, the room was bedecked with festive tables, each adorning a perfectly pressed orange tablecloth, with cornucopias overflowing with root vegetables and squash sewn into the design. Crisp orange cloth napkins rolled into a cone and stuffed with silverware were tied with a silky, transparent brown ribbon and sat at each place setting alongside delicate china plates, which also matched the scenery of the tablecloth. Shiny and sparkling autumn confetti pieces were sprinkled about to cover any bare spots in the place settings. Even the chairs were orange. It took 5 tables to seat us all. The whole room was warm and inviting, as if there was a fireplace with a roaring flame hugging each guest. Before I elaborate on such a successful and glorious day in my life, I must first explain that I've been homeless since I was 5. My parents divorced when I was 5, and I spent my childhood being shuffled about between their houses. You've heard of a latchkey kid? Well, I'm what you call a suitcase kid. I so yearn for the day when absolutely everything I own is under one roof. My entire childhood up to that point was spent fantasizing over being Mrs. Hostess. My childhood hours were consumed with dreaming about throwing the most stunning dinner party I could ever imagine. It would be years before that dream could be realized. I had long since suppressed my childhood dream of entertaining, knowing it wouldn't be possible until all my belongings did find their place into one house, my house. When you live between houses, you feel like a long-term guest and not a resident. As a guest in my mother's home and now a guest in my fiancé Nathan's home, I've never felt like I've had the right to invite anyone over or to use the kitchen without permission. Stars started aligning, though. It was nearing Thanksgiving. A more perfect dinner party date could not have been set. Nathan's parents, who normally traveled to Texas for the holiday, couldn't afford it that year and would be in town. The local community center had its first ever vacant Thanksgiving booking, and the space had a full commercial-sized kitchen and a fully furnished dining room plenty big to fit 2 large extended families. My great-grandmother, who also was a traveling snowbird, would be home that year due to her declining health and demanded that someone throw a Thanksgiving spread. Fate had handed me what would end up being the greatest day of my life. Thanksgiving dinner has always been one of the most highly revered holidays in my heart. When I was very little, my mother and father would produce the most spectacular spread, and we would have countless guests, both family and friends, pouring in and out of our house all day. Once my parents divorced, though, the friends and family stopped coming. Thanksgiving left a void in my heart that my extended family wasn't there, and those Thanksgivings fueled the fire inside me to one day not only entertain my own dinner party, but to get a family back together for a Thanksgiving meal. We didn't know it at the time, but my Thanksgiving at the community center would be the last Thanksgiving for my great-grandmother. I owe a lot of my perfect day to her. She came, which was a gift in and of itself, but she also convinced her daughter, my grandmother, to also come. My grandmother has not attended a family event since my parents divorced. At this dinner was another guest whose last Thanksgiving it would be, Nate's baby sister. She was only 17 years old, and none of us could expect that it was her last Thanksgiving or that she would have been taken so young. Like a job interview, this dinner held a lot of pressure and merit for me. It was far more than any regular dinner. To most, throwing a dinner for their family probably isn't that important or significant, but for me, it was everything.